Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another mod overview for The Sims 4. This time, I am showing off the Road to Romance mod by Lumpenow. I apologize if I said that name wrong. But first we are going to take a look at the download page and an overview of its features, and then we'll later go into the game and do some gameplay just to show off a sampling of it. Alright, so the main features. The Romance skill, which brings new interactions and moodlets. A new mood. Sims can now feel affectionate. Sims can go on rabbit hole dates with their partners. Counseling for couples and singles. Online dates, very basic because the Simda dating app by Little Miss Sam exists. I think it would go well with this mod, and do recommend it. Cheat skill up or to max. And automatically give NPCs a romance skill level. Skill info. Gain romance skill by performing any of the game's romantic interactions that grant positive relationship points, and using the interactions this mod adds. Then for the skill levels, it says, at first, Sims will be a little bad at romance. It impacts how quickly romance develops between them and others. It also impacts the quality of moodlets they can obtain from Woohoo. As they grow their skill, these things improve. There are 10 levels and 5 thresholds, 2 levels in each threshold. So this seems pretty interesting. There's a bunch of different interactions you can unlock, and with the thresholds, it looks like you basically get through these thresholds after a certain level of the skill as well. I'm not going to spoil every little thing, but with the thresholds, it is quite interesting how at first, when you have a very low romance skill, there is a very, very high chance of your Sims getting an uncomfortable or an embarrassed moodlet, and Woohoo just plain cannot grant any great moodlets until you're much higher up in the romance skill. And you can unlock interactions like talking about exes or confessing to have never woohooed before, and you can reaffirm your devotion later on, so there seems to be some really interesting little details going on here. There's also some interactions available that are not dependent on any romance skill, like revealing your relationship problems, trying to talk through problems. Kids can yell at their parents for divorcing, and also blame for problems in relationship, enthuse about partner's family, criticize partner's family, enthuse about your children, or complain about children. And then there's the rabbit hole dates, counseling, and online dating. And affectionate, the emotion, also has a few interactions available. One other thing I should mention is that there are 3 different versions to download. The original version, where it is just the regular version, where the description does fully apply to it. And then there is version B, which is no romance gain restrictions version, aka compatibility version / no override version, which is good if you are using some mods that tune similar things, such as slower relationship progression and long-term relationship building. And then there's version C, where there's more romance gain restrictions, so they can make romance even more difficult. To be on the safe side, I went with version B because I was not sure if this mod might conflict with the changed emotions from the Slice of Life mod. So without further ado, let's get to the gameplay. I ended up using Fen and her wife Ayana, and I did not cheat either of their romance skills up, at least immediately. And it already started off pretty awkward, just using normal romantic interactions. So Fen ended up getting this buff. Romance, a little stressful. Fen is not too used to romance yet, and sometimes it's stressful to be near a love interest when your romance skill is low. What if Fen says or does the wrong thing? It could all turn awkward easily. Unfortunately for Fen, Woohoo also went badly for her, where she got this buff unsatisfied from low romance skill. That Woohoo wasn't satisfactory. Improvement needed. I also tried out the enthuse about your children interaction since they do have an adopted child, but unfortunately it did not give any buffs. Though I guess it is nice that there was at least the appropriate diaper icon above Fen's head. Since Ayana's romance skill was also at level 1, I decided to get her to ask Nox for love advice, since you can ask friends for love advice, but it only gives you a buff if the sim who's giving the advice to you has a lot of romance skill. So I cheated Nox's romance skill to level 9. Once he gave her the advice, she got this buff saying, "Good suggestions. A friend gave Ayana some interesting love advice. With these new ideas, she will be sure to impress," and it did make her more confident. I also ended up stumbling upon the complaint about partners' family interaction. I think from all the woohoo that Fen and Ayana have done, their friendship level was low, because for some reason, woohoo always lowers friendship for me. It doesn't make much sense, but unfortunately this interaction did not give me any buff of any kind, so hopefully future updates could add that. So after that negative interaction, I decided, okay, they're gonna go to couples counseling, so click on romance, go do something together, and there's all these options, including couple counseling, going for drinks, going out with friends, going for a walk, going to a restaurant, and going to a movie. Everything under this submenu is a rabbit hole interaction, but with couples counseling there is one extra step, where you also need to go to the computer and then go to order and book couples relationship counseling, and it does cost you 150 simoleons. Once the booking is done, it will have this pop-up menu where you can go with, and of course I did choose her wife, it's the only option, and then yeah, they go off the lot, and they leave for about an hour, I believe, and we do have this buff saying focused from ongoing counseling session. Fen is focused on the ongoing counseling session, and it gives her a focus buff. I'm guessing there's at least one other outcome besides what I got, but Fen got this buff saying no progress from counseling session. That counseling session didn't really seem to do much for Fen. Maybe another time will be better. So that's kind of neat. It's a really cool storytelling sort of device. The other interactions under that submenu, like I said, are all rabbit hole interactions, but they all do provide some buffs, and they last about a couple of hours. Rabbit hole interactions are not my favorite, but I do like how with the going to the bar one, it actually makes Sims tipsy afterwards. Of course, I do want to show off some of the stuff that you get later on in the romance skill. So if you want to cheat it up, you go under Actions, and then Road to Romance Mod, and then you have 3 options. Give Romance Skill to NPCs randomly, and then you can cheat your Romance Skill up by 1 level, and then you also have the option to max out the Romance Skill of your current sim. And it's interesting the way it works with giving random NPCs the Romance Skill, because what happens is that there is something activated on your sim for 10 days, where whenever they do meet another sim, that sim will be assigned a random number of romance skill points. So I cheated Fen to level 5 romance skill, and she has this reaffirmed devotion interaction, and this is definitely one of my favorites so far. I think it is pretty sweet, the buff that you get from this one, where it's called Still Loving You. It says, Ayana's partner claimed to love her as strongly as they did in the early days of this relationship. That would melt anyone's heart a little. This is the only interaction I've seen so far that gives a boost to the affectionate emotion that this mod adds. And unfortunately, I never got to the affectionate emotion. Maybe it's a lot easier once your sim's romance skill is much higher up. Oh, and of course, the woohoo ended up going a lot better this time. I also tried out the 2 research interactions, where you can research woohoo technique and you can research romance tips and tricks. For researching woohoo techniques, I got interesting tips and tricks. Ayana found some interesting ideas while researching how to improve her woohoo technique. It got her imagination going, and it does give a flirty boost. Then with researching romance, we get a confident buff, Charmer in the making. Researching romance has given Ayana more confidence in her ability to charm others. Also, both of these options increase the romance skill, so it is pretty handy if your Sims partner is not around. The last thing that I checked out was the online dating. I switched over to my sim Dudley, so I have to click on the computer and then go to Socialize and create online dating profile. After you're done creating the profile, you will have this online dating menu available, and you can browse through dating profiles, and you can go on a date. And when you browse through the profiles, basically the whole purpose of that is to give you a confident buff. Profile now public. With an online dating profile, it'll be easier to meet people and build relationships. Then when you choose to go on a date, you will have the going with dialog box pop up so you can choose from a whole bunch of different sims, and then when you click on them, your sim will get up and get to the rabbit hole. But what is interesting about this is that there are different buffs that pop up during the date. For Dudley, it unfortunately started off boring. We have boring beginnings from ongoing date. Well, this date isn't starting too well. It might get better, but for now, things are feeling pretty awkward between Dudley and his date. But then, after that buff expired, he got inspired. And this one says inspiring turn from ongoing date. Now the date is taking a more inspiring turn, talking about books and life, about everything that comes to mind. Sadly, that was not enough to save the date though, as it still went awful. He got this embarrassed buff at the end. Awful date. That date was a disaster. Okay, it had its moments. At times Dudley could have believed or almost believed that it would go well, but it ended on a bad note and he is not seeing that person again anytime soon. So even though I'm not really a huge fan of rabbit hole interactions and Little Miss Sam's online dating mod has more to it, I do like the unpredictability factor of sending the sim into the rabbit hole since you don't really have control over what's going on. So overall, I think this mod is very cool. It definitely made me think about how romance should be handled in The Sims, and I think there should be a skill just like this one and having the thresholds and having the really drastically lower chances of romance and woohoo going well at first. I guess it's still going to be hard to avoid the memes of getting married within a sim day, but at least it is a more natural and realistic way of making romance decently challenging in this game. I definitely recommend downloading this mod, but it is best to just go through it at your own pace instead of trying to cheat through everything as quickly as possible, because then that way you can really see how well this mod integrates into your everyday gameplay. So I will leave a download link in the video description below, and feel free to let me know what you think of this mod. And be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with my latest content from The Sims, Paralive, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!